Welcome back, and today's a different video because although this video is entirely sponsored by PCBWay, as in fact some of my videos have been recently, I wanted to look at exactly what their product offering was so that when I talk to you guys I'm doing it honestly and not just as an advertiser with no involvement. Okay, so what they said to me was, look, hey Ralph, how would you like to do an unboxing video, okay, as a special, and you show the quality of our product, etc., etc. And I said, I'm not really that happy about promoting something I had no involvement in. So how about I knock up a quick PCB, you make it, send it back to me, and then we'd do it as though I'd bought the thing, basically. And they said, great, go for it. I mean, how difficult can it be to create a PCB? Yeah, if you've read my blog, that one on screen, you'll know exactly how difficult it was. Things that I did so wrong. But that was my fault, nothing to do with PCBWay. So here's the box that arrived. That's the final product once I'd put all the bits together. And in fact, if I slide this switch here, oh look, it works. Did it work straight out the box? Nearly. Yeah, a couple of design decisions by me meant that it didn't work straight away, but it was pretty easy to correct. And now, of course, it is working. So I've managed to design a PCB, first time ever, because I used to do it with a resist pen. You draw on this screen here and then you put it into a little bath of ferric chloride, I think it was, or that brown stuff anyway, and it got rid of all the copper and got browner while it did so, and it looked pretty horrendous, but in fact it did work quite well. Having now used a CAD software package, this one was in fact Eagle 9 point something or other, to do this. I mean, the quality of this is, well, it can't compare. For a start, it's double-sided, which makes it so much easier. So let's unbox this, see what we got, have a look at the board itself, and go through the ordering process, which is painless and quick and easy, and find out the things that perhaps could have gone better with my design, but that's a bit more about PCB design rather than PCBWay's method of generating the PCB itself. Right, let's open this up first. Right, so this is what you get inside the box. Obviously the most important component are your PCBs. You get 10 of them in this shrink wrap foil thing, well, plastic actually. 10 of those. It's $5 for 10, double-sided, no bigger than, I think it's about 100 by 100. If you go larger than that, the price goes up accordingly. I've taken one out so we can have a look at it a bit later. You get a pen, which means I can use that now to advertise PCBWay. Also got this time round this little snowman greeting card, which is actually it's microcontroller controlled. Can I say that? So press that, it's off, press it, let go, and it will start winding up. Not exactly the most complex bit of code, I shouldn't think, but you know, it's okay. I'll use that for the Christmas period. So the box was delivered by DHL, and I ordered this on Thursday, round about before lunch. It was, I think, before lunch Thursday UK time, which meant it was already evening China time, but it arrived here Monday morning. So that was pretty good. That was quicker than I expected. Initially, DHL says we'd expect to deliver this by Wednesday, end of day, but in fact it turned up Monday, pretty much the start of the day, in the morning about 10 o'clock. So that was nice and fast. So let's talk about the PCB itself and what we might expect from that. So this is the printed circuit board as I designed it, and because I'm absolutely useless at Eagle, it's the first time I'd used it really, other than just looking at it. It's exactly as I designed it. Now what happens is when you use Eagle, or indeed any other program like KiCad or something, you generate what's known as Gerber files. Those are the ones you zip up and send off to PCBWay. They then check them for you. When I say check them, they don't check your circuit. They don't make sure your circuit works or anything like that. What they're doing is checking for things like overlap. So if we look at some of these here, where these tracks go round the IC, especially on the reverse, you can see here, look, some of these very, very thin tracks are going around the IC. Now what PCBWay are checking for is that there's no overlap here and they can actually do it that close. If I'd known it was like this, I would of course given it a bit more headroom, but that was my inexperience. So what they do, they check all this, make sure that there's nothing wrong with the actual design as it is. Of course, do not check your actual circuit. And when they've checked it, they then say, okay, your design's passed, this is how much you owe us, please pay. Then you pay up and it goes through their fabrication process. So what about the quality of this? Well, apart from the actual design of that, you can see that it has got some silk screen on the front. All the solder mask, that's the silver bits you can see there, are excluded from the solder mask. And this probably applies more to the rear actually than the front. So you can see there's this green stuff over everything, over all the tracks and everything. And just leaving the copper bits that you want to solder to are already pre-tinned. Now compare that in fact to a different brand of PCB that is not so good. Now here's a professionally designed PCB, but if we look at the back of this, you can see that it's just bare copper, which then oxidizes, and you'd have to clean this one up if you ever wanted to solder on that again. Now admittedly the thickness of these PCB tracks is much better compared to my one, but funnily enough, the reason why I got these tiny little thin tracks on mine is because I was trying to route stuff in and around the IC here, and I thought, how thin can I go to get between these tracks? And then I forgot to change the width of the tracks back again. So what that meant was I was stuck with thin tracks throughout my design, but in some ways I found that a very useful exercise. And of course it pretty much worked. All these holes of course are all through soldered, and they connect the top layer to the bottom layer. But more importantly, these tiny little holes, which are known as vias, they connect top and bottom without you having to put any kind of component in or anything else. So there we are. Now that's pretty good. The thickness of the board can be specified at time of manufacture. This is probably standard for hobbyists and prototypes. So other than that, I think what we can say here, oh, I've even got my name on it. On the wrong layer, I might add. That was supposed to be silk screen. It eventually turned up on the copper screen. Never mind. We live and learn there as well. Right. So this is a nice board. I found it very easily to solder to when I put all my components on. I corrected a couple of mistakes. So on the back here, we have in fact got a missing link I even forgot to put a switch on entirely, which I've only just noticed for this demo. I thought, oh, if I put the battery in, it's going to turn on all the time. So I had to quickly solder that little tiny switch in. But for a prototype, it's fine. And I'm guessing this video is really aimed at prototypists or hobbyists who just want to get a PCB done for whatever project it is they're doing at the moment. This video obviously is not going to be looked at by anybody who works for a big organisation, because they have the skills to design a PCB like this in their sleep. 100 times more complex than this, I would imagine. Okay, but for hobbyists, this is great. And in fact, I've got to admit, I'm hooked. Now I know how easy it is to do this, even though I'm rubbish at Eagle. I'm thinking, do you know what? I could make some PCBs for some of my stuff really well, really easily. Do you remember perhaps a while ago I made a strip board item for zapping Tiny 85 fuses? You don't remember that one? There it is, that one on screen there, look. I'll show you the board, I'll go and get it. So here's the fuse resetter that I made for an Tiny 85. You drop it into the socket, put a 12 volt battery in here, plug that into the Arduino Uno with a special program, and Bob's your uncle, right? But look how complicated all this was and all these links on here. Now, I think if I'd had the experience I've had so far in creating this, I think most certainly I would have seriously considered making a PCB for this. It's just so much easier. So there we are. That's once you get into this sort of thing, I think you discover all sorts of possibilities. So let's have a look at the ordering process and see how easy or not it is to order one of these boards. So here we are at their main website. The first thing to do is tell it how big you want the board, pretty much, a couple of millimeters either way. I don't suppose it's going to matter, but don't undersize. Choose the number you want. Remember, you get 5 or 10 10 pieces for the same price anyway, so you might as well choose that. Why would you want so many? Well, in my case, for example, when we look at this one here, I've got 10 of these. Do I want 10 of these? Well, I won't have use for 10, but I'll certainly have use for more than one, because you play about with it, you find out what's wrong, discover a few components that perhaps you might have put on there a little bit better, and you can make it better yourself. For example, on here, if you notice, I've got 2 resistors on here now because I chose the wrong value resistor here, so that the flash weight was too slow. So I've just put another one in parallel to make it a little bit faster now. So next time, if I was to build this, I'd put the right value resistor in. Okay, so back to the website. So we put in our width and length. So let's just make something up here. We'll say 65 by 50, and we'll have 10, please. The thickness, of course, depends on how much you're willing to spend. 1.6 seems to be the default. You can have anything from 0.4 millimeters all the way up to 2.4 millimeters, which is quite a chunky board. And 2 layers, I suspect, is going to be the maximum that anybody who's watching this video will ever want to order. But you can, of course, order a single layer PCB, and you can go up to a whopping great 14 layers. Yes, I guess you're not watching this video either. Okay, so anyway, having specified that, you then say, go and get me a quote. Now, if you're a first-time user on this, you do get a $5 credit, so your first order is effectively free apart from your postage or your shipping. So you then have to fill in all these details here. Mostly you leave it as default. Half the things you wouldn't understand, and well, basically just leave it as default. If you try changing some of these, you might find that the cost goes up. For example, on here, green is the default, and you can have it as red. I think that's the same price, but if you tried it as matte black, for example, it's going to be more expensive. And for a prototype, there's absolutely no need to do that. If you're into production layers, then I'm guessing you're prepared to spend the money. Right, so we'll stick at green, silk screen's white, gold fingers, I'm guessing that means on the soldering pads, I don't even know really. All these standard bits here are defaulted, and you can just click the button. So press calculate. Oh, hang on. It says here, Hazel with lead. What's that? Please choose accept. We might change Hazel to ENIG. I don't even know what that means. So let's say yes. Without extra charge. Well, there we are. Before I ordered this now, I'd have to find out exactly what that did mean. But let's have a check. So what that's saying now, if I can move my head out of the way a little bit, you'll see that the actual PCB cost is $5. Now the shipping is $20. Now you might think, what? This is with DHL and it's coming to the United Kingdom. All right, it says 3 to 5 days. Now, would I want to spend $20 of my own money for some prototype PCBs? Well, I might. For example, if I was doing the one I just showed you, the AT Tiny thing, I'd probably want that a bit quicker, because otherwise you lose track of what you're doing. And by the time it's arrived, you think, well, I've sort of lost impetus now. So there's probably a good reason for thinking about DHL, especially as it was that quick, Thursday to the Monday, including the manufacturer time. But what happens if you don't want that? If you think, no, that's just too much, I don't want to spend $20. Well, luckily, there's another option. Now, you can't see the drop-down lists, but there's all sorts of FedEx and Hong Kong DHL and everything else. But the cheapest one I found is China Post. Now, as you can see now, the shipping's dropped to $7. But it does mean you're going to have to wait probably 2-3 weeks. Now, I've gone on about the shipping time on the slow boat to China before from some of our Far Eastern suppliers, and they've got a lot quicker lately. If you wait longer than 2 weeks, I think it's tough luck. Normally I get stuff within 2 weeks now, because the UK and the China Post have sort of, I don't know, they've got some special arrangement where they put it on some conveyor belt a bit quicker. To the USA, I think it's probably about the same amount of time, and I'm guessing that if you're in Australia, it's going to be quicker than ever, simply because you're closer. So if you don't want to spend the $20, but you think $7 might be reasonable, then go for the China Post. Anyway, on this occasion, I was invited to try DHL, so I didn't pay for the shipping. And because it was my first order, I didn't pay for the actual boards itself, as you wouldn't if it's your first order. So the whole caboodle for me was totally free. So we add this to the cart. It says now upload your file. Now I'm not going to do it all again because it means somebody somewhere in PCBWay is going to receive this and start looking at it. But you add it as Gerber files, which means you export it from Eagle or KiCad or whatever. They accept that once you've had submit, and somebody somewhere does something with those files to, as I say, to prove that electrically they're sound and they're not going to touch the pads of an IC or something like that. Okay, and then they tell you, great, it's passed, or no, there's a problem here, you've got to fix it first, and then you resubmit, and finally they'll ask you for the money. And that's it, that's all you have to do. It goes, great, we've got your money, we'll do the board within 3 days. It was probably quicker. In fact, I saw somewhere on the very first page of this that they can now do it within 24 hours. Let's have a look. It was on one of these, I'm sure. There we are, look. As fast as 24 hours, no extra cost, capacity upgrade. I'm guessing that means they've had a capacity upgrade. So it could be pretty quick. In fact, once it's generated, once they've manufactured it within 1 or 2 days, or however long it takes them, the tracking is absolutely superb. So you know exactly where it is. Let me show you a picture of that. Right, so this was my tracking, and obviously it grew. This list grew as time went on. So we started off down here, I think, tracked it through China. It then went to Leipzig in Germany, which in some ways is another sort of delaying step, isn't it? So it could have been quicker if they'd gone straight to London. But anyway, it went to East Midlands in the UK, and then went out for delivery on Monday the 17th. So there we are. And you can track this, and you can have, if you sign in here, you get updates from DHL as they're doing it. Cool. All that is very nice. Now there's a couple of other things about PCBWay you might want to know. When you've designed your board, you can share it. I'm never going to share this board here, am I? Nobody's going to want that. But say I designed an Arduino board as part of my channel. Well, why not that fuse holder? I mean, say I designed this as a PCB, and it was rather nice. And people thought, I'd like to make some of those. Well, apart from selling the boards myself, which I might be tempted to do, but let's assume I wasn't, I could share the board, and then somebody else, anybody else, could download this and order more boards like this for themselves. They also do a competition. Let me go to that page now. So here we are on the PCBWay project page, and it's the design contest. So you can submit your design to be judged by PCBWay, and as you can see, some of them look very festive at the moment as it's coming up to Christmas. But they've done lots of things. They've done it for Thanksgiving and stuff like that. You know, as the year progresses and the new festivities of that time start, they'll do some sort of competition or something about that. It's quite a nice little feature. And as they say, you got to be in it to win it. So if you do design a PCB, submit it and keep your fingers crossed. Great. Let's think about a couple of other aspects of PCBWay PCB design then. Now, what if you're a small company, you know, a few people working in a company, you need a PCB, you've got the design sorted now, but you really need these things assembled by somebody other than yourselves because it's just too time consuming. Well, they do an assembly service here, $88 for 10 pieces. That's just the assembly service. They don't provide the components for that. They will, however, source your components if required. So 10 pieces of PCB assembled for 88, and then you get free shipping as well. So how long does it take to actually assemble a PCB? Well, what they're saying here is, if you look at this one here, the assembly time is 3 to 5 days for up to 10 pieces. Pretty good. Certainly a lot quicker than what you could do yourself. Imagine something though like the Arduino board, with all its complexity and tiny components, SMD, surface mount stuff. I mean, that could really take some time. And for surface mount, you probably do need better equipment than I've got. Certainly you want hot air guns, reflow equipment, who knows. So PCBWay can do that for you. And as it says here, I've just mentioned it, in fact, you do get worldwide free shipping for PCB assembly projects. It says here $35 shipping cost deductions automatically. So the charge that I mentioned a little while ago for $20, that would be automatically deducted if you had your PCBs assembled by them. Cool. So there we are. That's sort of a general hobbyist, small prototyper roundup really of what PCBWay can offer. And as I say, I wouldn't have done it if I couldn't have got my own PCB board, rubbish though it is design wise, done by them, because then now I know exactly how the whole thing works, the ordering system, the delivery system, the designs. The reason I did this promotional video, it's not just because they asked me to do it. Obviously they want me to promote their services, the quality of their products, which I'm sure we're in no doubt about. But I wanted to be able to talk from the heart, as it were, that I know that their products are good and what they say they're going to do, they really do. And in all respects, I can find no fault with them. Now, as they say in the UK sometimes, other PCB manufacturers are available. But, you've got to choose somebody at the end of the day, haven't you? And PCBWay, to me, if I had to create a PCB now, why wouldn't I use PCBWay? No reason not to at all. Absolutely great as far as I'm aware. All the flexibility and options that I would need as a small maker, and indeed even if I was a small company looking to prototype some boards, this is the way to go. And I can say that hand on heart. Right, let's leave it there then. I think we've had a pretty good coverage of what PCBWay can offer you, and I'm very convinced that they're going to be on my shortlist of PCB makers in the future, and if I make one, I'll certainly let you know about it. Okay, hope you found this interesting and useful, and I'll see you in the next video. I hope you're finding these videos useful and interesting. There are plenty more videos to choose, and a couple are shown below. And if you'd like to subscribe to this channel, just click on my picture below and enjoy the rest of the videos. Thanks for watching.